Debí tirar más fotos de cuando te tuve. Debí darte más besos y abrazos las veces que
What is up,
pude.
everybody? Welcome back to the Draft Guys podcast with Peyton and Nico. And today's a special day. Today's a hybrid day, as we like to call them. We know that we are a draft network, a draft show, but at the same time, in order to get to the draft part, we have to get through some of the NFL's offseason. And we'll be a little creative today. We're going to bring you guys our free agency big boards and the quarterback scenarios for the rest of the NFL offseason. As always, I am your host, Nico Chambers. Nico, the draft guy, you can call me, alongside my co-host, P Dunn. P Dunn, what's up, man?
What's up, bro? I'm really excited for this one. This one should be fun. We're getting into, just dipping our toe, getting started in the free agency. I like the way you said that you can't really fully know what's going on in the draft until you understand what these teams do in free agency. This is an important step. And I'm really excited to talk about the quarterbacks because that's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, we got to tie it in somehow. So you'll be seeing more of these hybrid episodes throughout the draft cycle because our goal as a whole network is to get you prepared for the first day of the NFL draft. And in order to do that, like I said, you got to go through these kind of stages. So we're going to have fun with it. And yeah, we're just going to get right into it. And we're going to go straight into what we call our 11 through 20 big board. We rank the top 20 players and we're going to talk about them right here. So, P Dunn, floor is yours. Talk to me about a guy on this list.
Where do we start? I'll talk about Kyle Pitts because I think he's probably the most high upside player on this list. Everybody else, you kind of know what you're getting with all these players. You don't really know what you're getting with Pitts, which is interesting. And there's some people and some teams that are going to want to take a chance on him. Maybe a Kelsey retirement happens this season, and I think him going to the Chiefs would be really interesting. Um, there's a lot of positions in teams that could use a receiving tight end like him, and I don't think he was ever fully utilized in that offense. His rookie year was his best season, and then there was, the Arthur Smith stuff happened, and then, the Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins situation. So interesting to say that he hasn't really had his feet fully set underneath him in a 5 year span, 4 year span, but I think there's opportunity for him to really have some growth in another team. Like I think this could be a upside play, which is interesting to say about free agency because you don't see a lot of that in free agency. You see a lot of players that, I mean, like look at everybody else on this list. Like these are players that we know what we're getting, and you know what player you're going to receive once they walk in the building, and that's just not the case with Kyle Pitts, which is really interesting.
I think with the Kyle Pitts, I think back to that Thursday night football game where they were playing Tampa and he just erupted. Fantasy playoffs,
Yeah.
saved all these dudes. I mean, 3 touchdowns, 150 yards, whatever the number was. That's going to be something that a lot of teams look back at that game, especially because obviously he's been a steady growing player. He's been every year he's gone up on his touchdowns by one. He's slowly getting his feet, under himself, but is there a team that can utilize him as the skill tight end? Because the Falcons have done an interesting thing with the way that they have kind of played
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
using him kind of more as a slot guy and moving him around at times. So I think that'll be interesting to see. The big thing for me when I look at the 11 through 20, I see a lot of guys who I think, specifically on that right side, 16 through 20, I think all those guys are going to get second contracts with this team, with the team that they are currently with. I can't imagine a world where Mike Evans leaves the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even
Yeah.
with all the receivers that they have there. That's just not going to happen. I can't imagine a world where a Mike McCarthy signed Steelers team does not have Aaron Rodgers in
Yeah.
2026. That's pretty much there. I think the Seahawks have seen enough from Woolen to keep him around. I would not be shocked if he ends up on a different team, but I think he was an integral part, especially his early years in the league. And I feel like it would be smart to bring him back. Wandale's another guy. I could see him potentially getting a bag from someone else, and that could be the reason why he leaves the Giants. You talk to me about how about you talk to me about Nashawn Wright and the Bears?
Yeah, I mean, just to like, we talked a lot about our big board last time. I feel like the word ball hawk got used so many times, but he was such a big contributor to I mean, the Bears defense led the team. I think they led the nation in turnovers last year. And he was a huge part of that. And so I think this is a guy that, was obviously not a huge household name before this season and played his way, I think, into another contract, a contract extension with the Bears. I'm with you. I don't think they're going to go in a different direction just because of the lack of depth behind him. I don't know if they're really trusting another guy to come up and into that role. And um, I think he's someone that's definitely going to stay around this year for sure.
I think the most underrated guy on this list, I keep flip-flopping between Alec Pierce and Devin Lloyd. I'm gonna talk about Devin Lloyd though right now. I mean, one of the premier interior linebackers in this league. I think he can do it all, and I don't think he's going to be a Jaguar next year. I feel like there are needs all around the entire NFL for an inside linebacker with the way that Devin Lloyd plays, and I think he's going to get a different contract somewhere else. I'll let you talk about Alec Pierce, but I think that Joey Bosa, be on the lookout for the Niners. I think that match made in
Mm,
heaven, go play with your brother,
mm.
um, and kind of ride out the end of your career. But Peyton, take us
Yeah.
away with Alec Pierce.
He's interesting because he's kind of a nightmare scenario for people like us that really like to draft. Because he's a guy that is such an outlier in the sense that he's a deep threat that doesn't run that fast. And he's not a great route runner, but he's just produces at such a high level. Like he's him in that offense, no matter who they've had at quarterback, just produces and he always puts up numbers. And so it's going to be really interesting to see if he was just in that Steichen offense, like if he was just somebody that just clicked really well in the way they did things, or he's going to go somewhere and he's going to continue to do what he does, and he's just a really high floor receiver that is going to give you a couple deep threats. He's going to give you probably 4 to 5 catches a game, and he's a guy that can handle 7 to 8 targets and just a good receiver, which is interesting for. I mean, I wasn't that high on him coming out, and I he's proved me wrong. Like he's just kind of hung around and has been doing a pretty good job in his role. And it's going to be interesting to see if someone pays him more than he's worth is kind of the thing that I'm eyeing there. Is someone going to give him more money and expect him to play a role that he's not designed for? But I mean, I proved him wrong coming out. He proved me wrong coming out of college, so he could prove me wrong again.
Is there a team that you're specifically looking for that could use an Alec Pierce type player?
That's a good question. Um, I'm trying to think of like receiver needy teams. The Patriots don't really have a guy that fits that mold. As like a field stretcher, field or not an X, but a field side corner. I mean receiver. Yeah, I like that Patriots fix. Someone that can, force you to play those safeties a little bit deeper, and just can give somebody to throw Drake May to give the ball with an aging Stephon Diggs and a younger receiving core that hasn't really lived up to the hype.
My mind immediately goes to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm interested to see what they do this offseason. The last guy on this list that we haven't touched on, it's Breece Hall, and we'll give you a full flashback to the trade deadline episode where the Jets just hauled their entire team, fire sale. They got rid of Quentin Williams, they got rid of Sauce Gardner, and we sat there and we were shocked because we thought that Breece Hall was the guy that they were going to get rid of. Now they
Yeah.
sit in a situation where he's not going to be a Jet next year.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to give him a bag, and the Jets are going to lose out. It's unfortunate. I feel like we learned later that there were discrepancies. I think the Jets wanted a third. I think the Chiefs had a fourth in line.
Yeah.
Um, what are teams really getting with Breece Hall in this really first, second contract that he's going to be getting?
Honestly, it's difficult to say because I mean, I'm just so skeptical of second contract running backs. I really am, especially when they're changing situations. It usually takes running backs time to get their feet underneath of them when they change offenses. And this is when you get to second contract running backs, how many years you got left on the tread? Like how much, like I don't know how much time you're gonna have with a prime Breece Hall, which I think you don't have a prime Breece Hall. I think that's already behind him. So like I don't know. Like I don't know what you're getting. I know you're getting someone that I mean, what's he a top 15 running back in football right now, you'd say? That seems about right. He's probably
About
top.
maybe 12. He could stretch it to 12
Yeah.
at times, but
Yeah.
obviously injury concerns and he's been on and off. So
Yeah, I mean, he's on and off. Now, with that being said, he's playing for a bad Jets team, but he's not playing for a bad offensive line, if that makes sense. They just don't have any
Just this
tackle.
year, though, I'll cut him some slack. The last few years
Yeah,
have been
that's true.
horrible.
That's true. That's a good point. Like, you're not seeing him healthy that much because you're right. He's had injury history. Like, when he's on the field, he's been good, but he hasn't been like electric. He's just a good back, and I think that's fine. There's a role for that. It's going to be interesting to see if he gets a DeAndre Swift-esque contract, like a 3 year. Not a lot of guaranteed money, the way the Bears did with DeAndre Swift. And it's going to be interesting to see what his market looks like. And I think the Jets are definitely regretting not trading him for fourth. I will say there is talks about him getting franchise tagged. I've heard that before. The talk it's either between him, um, what's his face? What's the guard? The guard for them. Is it ABT?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's him. They're talking about that. That's two of the
Same
guys.
draft. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know if they're gonna have the balls to do a franchise tag on a guard if they don't end up extending ABT. But it wouldn't shock me at all if he stays around. It wouldn't shock me at all if they let him be a free agent. It would shock me if someone gives him a deal that's longer than 3 years.
That's a perfect segue talking about the franchise tag because that'll take us into our top 10. And I look at this list right away and I see a guy who he's going to get tagged. It's George Pickens,
Yeah,
whether he likes it or not. And
yeah.
I think we could have, obviously issues off the field with him sitting out, like we talked about in that same that training camp episode where we had all those guys. Michael Parsons was sitting out, Trey Henderson, Terry McLaurin, all these guys were sitting out. George Pickens is going to be that guy this year because they will tag him, and hopefully they can work on a long term contract because he had a phenomenal year of football. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to be tagged. Pete Dunn, is there anybody on this list in the new top 10 that you see here who you think is also going to get tagged?
Um, that's interesting. I hope Trey Hendrickson isn't. It's I want to see him go somewhere other than Bengals, but I think there's a chance that he could. I think they also might just like be ready to be done with that. There's been so much every single year. There's talks about a contract, and he just never got a new contract. Kudos to him for still playing. You don't see that a lot in the NFL. Walker, I think is for sure going to be a Seahawk next year. I don't think there's any chance they let him leave the building, especially after the way that the Super Bowl went. Other than that, though, it's for whatever reason, we've talked about this on this podcast before. I don't understand why the Colts want to get rid of Daniel Jones. It does not make any sense to me. You've had awful quarterback play for such a long time, and you finally get someone who's decently young. He's not an old guy that is ready to, play good quarterback and played really good quarterback. You're the best record in the league through 9 games. Like you were 8-1. And then when he got hurt is when your season went down the drain. Why would you not why would you go into next season without him on the team? Like I don't know. I don't understand it. They've been in quarterback purgatory for so long, and they finally got a glimpse out, and they're just putting themselves right back in purgatory. If I was them, I would give him a good deal, Darnold-esque deal for 3 years, $110 million, $100 million. Like, just get him a bag, keep him in the room. The Richardson experience is over, in my opinion, for at least with the Colts side of things. Like, that doesn't seem like it's getting any better anytime soon. So, especially if his eyes keep that was a crazy story. That was wild. I mean, it just feels like anything in that Colts quarterback room is just not going right, and you had something go right, and you're letting it walk out the door.
Maybe the injury, the end of the season injury is worse than we think. Obviously, there's questions if he's going to be ready for week one. I mean, who knows what's going on with that? But he got hurt late into the season, and yeah, I agree. We should be, sitting on these podcasts talking about Anthony Richardson where he's going, but I don't know what's going on with that. I don't think they're going to pick up his fifth year option. I mean, I think this experiment is over. We'll talk about the Colts in the next segment a little bit more, but let's talk about a different quarterback who's getting a lot of buzz. I want to highlight Malik Willis of the Packers. Pete, do you think the buzz is worth it?
I do. I was really high on this player coming out of college. He was my quarterback one in that draft class. the infamous Kenny Pickett draft class of just such a loaded quarterback draft class. But he was my one. I was higher on him than everybody else and all the other quarterbacks in that draft. And I still see a lot of promise there. He's still the same player. The thing with him coming out was he had to be developed. He had to be developed. And the Titans threw him to the fire, just like the Colts did with Anthony Richardson. The Seahawks are doing that the right way, where they're taking Milrow and they're letting him sit and letting him develop. That did not happen for Malik Willis. And truth be told, he finally got somewhere where he could sit and he got behind Jordan Love and he got in that offense and he sat. And you saw a completely different player when he was in the game for the Packers. The crazy, uncontrolled, wild, looked like a high school quarterback that was playing NFL football that you used to see with him going a million miles an hour, had no idea what was going on, was gone. He looked in control of the offense with the still live arm that he has, with the same caliber of an athlete. It's weird to say, but he's still he was young coming out of college. He's still the high floor guy you can take a chance on, but you've already had him in an NFL system. You're not taking the risk of, okay, how do I develop him? No, how do I continue his development? He's already been developed. He's already on this trajectory. How do I mold him and take this, what used to be a wet piece of clay, and it's already hard, it's already getting better. And so, how do I make sure he takes that next step? I think mm, the sky's the limit. I actually got it this time from last episode. Sky's the limit for Malik Willis.
Is there a spot for him? Actually, we'll talk about it in the
We'll
next
get there.
segment.
We'll get there.
We'll definitely get there. Let's talk about Tyler Linderbaum. I think he's a top five. What is he, a center? Yeah, I think he's a top five
Yeah.
center in the league. And I think that he's going to get a bag from somebody, and I hope it's the Seattle Seahawks because that would
Oh
be
my gosh.
awesome. I
That would
mean,
be nuts.
you put him right back with Mike
Oh my
McDonald.
gosh.
You need the interior line play super bad. You have the franchise guard in Zabel. You have your franchise tackles. I mean, throw that in there. You got 70 million in cap. Make it happen. I'll talk about Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker is 100% staying. The jokes about him negotiating at the Super Bowl parade, he actually got fined 50,000 for it. Secondly, that's
What?
tampering. I don't know. Did you hear about
Crazy.
that story?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a joke. I don't know. Who knows these days? But yeah, I think it was 50,000 for quote tampering before the March. I think it was ninth
Unreal.
deadline, or who
Unreal.
knows? They're not letting him leave the building.
What
If
do
for
you think
whatever
that contract's
reason,
going to look like?
that's a good question. I think how much did Saquon get a few years ago? Is it
I don't
around
know. He
12?
just got that contract redone. They're paying him $20 million a year right now. I don't think he's going
Okay.
to get a contract like that.
Was it around 12 million, or did he like break that?
I think Swift got 3 for 36 is what Swift
Okay.
got. So
Yeah.
probably something maybe a little more than that, like a
Yeah. I could see
342,
40. Yeah.
345. Yeah.
Around 40. He
Yeah.
deserves it. If anybody deserves it, he does. I mean, you saw what he did. I talk about this all the time. The formula with Kenneth Walker was first few years in the league, great burst, hurt all the time. So going into this year, they made sure to boof up that Charbonnet role. Fantasy managers hate it, but it kept him healthy. And then
Yeah.
when Charbonnet got hurt and it was Walker's time, he exploded. 100
Yeah.
yards in all three of those postseason games. He 100% deserves it. He's one of the shiftiest guys in the league. Absolutely love Kenneth Walker. And I think that, yeah, he's here to stay.
It
40,
feels like there's
42.
tread on the tires there too. It feels like I don't view him the same way I view Brees Hall, and I don't know how much you got left. Now, a 3-year contract still feels safe. That feels like the right spot for these running backs with their second contract. You can get out after two if you need to. But I feel like when I think of them just off the top of my head, I view him in a different category than I do Brees Hall.
I thought Kenneth Walker was a top 10 running back coming into the league or coming into the year. Sorry. And yeah, there's no doubt that he is that now. It's just now you just got to compensate him. And then, of course, we'll talk about it because he just got released today. Tyreek
Yeah.
Hill. Pete Dunn, can you talk to me about exactly what happened or a recap of the marriage that failed and what's next for Tyreek?
Do you ever get around a really old couple and they always talk about oh we love each other so much and they are just argue all the time. They just That's what it felt like with the Dolphins and Tyreek Hill. Like it just always felt like there was all this internal turmoil, whether it was with Tua, whether it was stuff he was posting on his Twitter, whether it was like his Snapchat stories. Like there was always something going with Reek. And that wasn't there in Miami. And so I mean, sorry, there wasn't there in Kansas City. And so I just don't know what situation he's going to go in where someone's going to want to carry that baggage. And like, okay, like Tyreek Hill, are you ready to like maybe not be a, 15, 16, and 1700 yard receiver guy? Because if you are and you're ready to play a little bit of a lesser fine role, not be the wide receiver one, like this is also a guy coming off a very serious knee injury. Like for the first time in his career. Like this is not dealt with a lot of injuries. And like he's also 30. Like he's old. Like so like I don't know. I don't know what his future is going to look like. I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't know what this market's going to look like for him. I know he's going to be somewhere that is going to have a plan with him. You're not just signing him and like, there's going to be clauses in that contract that are going to make it easy for for the team to get out because you can't take a risk on like a receiver that's that reliant on his athleticism to win when you have a knee injury at that old of an age where you're already regressing in speed, he's not that nuanced of a route runner. He's the fastest receiver we've ever seen in football, or one of the fastest, right? And so I don't know what the market is. I don't know what the expectation is. I know what my expectations are for him, but I don't know what these teams are going to go into this cycle viewing Tyreek Hill as. And I don't think it's that high.
I think a lot of people are overthinking this. He's going to be a Chief. There's no question about it. In my opinion, he's
Wow.
going straight back to the Chiefs, and
Interesting.
he's going to fit really well with what they have in their receiver room. Pair him with Rice, and yeah, I mean, Chiefs may be back, like you always say.
With
But
Jeremiah Love.
at the end of the day, yeah, if you you draft Jeremiah Love, you get Tyreek Hill. That offense is scary. Who knows? Did Travis Kelce, is he retiring? Do we know yet?
It certainly seems like he is. All the rumors are, I mean, either way, he's not an impact on that team. Like
Yeah.
if they're keeping around, they're keeping him around to, just because he's a legend and you're not going to kick that guy out the door. Like, but he was not a factor in the passing game this year.
Who knows? Maybe they draft City with the ninth pick or whatever pick that they have. Who knows?
That's,
All right, that'll move us in to really the quarterback carousel, the quarterback rooms that are wide open. And this is where we really tie in the draft and see who can really be kind of connected to this upcoming class's year for the draft and the quarterbacks that are in this draft. It's pretty much a consensus, or so you think, that
yeah,
Mendoza is going to be a Raider.
yeah.
You saw the reels with us and how we feel about Mendoza, or at least how P Dunn feels about Mendoza. And I'll ask you one more time, just for all the viewers at home: is he definitely going to be a Raider?
He's definitely going to be a Raider. There's no chance that the Raiders move on from him. The only way that's possible is if the Jets um, do some sort of a swap at one and their pick at 16 plus a first rounder next year for that swap, and the Raiders are comfortable with that. Um, but it seems like Brady really loves them. It seems like the front office really loves them. I don't, I would be floored if he's not a Raider. Absolutely floored.
So, what does this mean exactly? And we look at the number three team on the list, and I'll just give a little flashback to when once upon a time in the same episode that you called Mike Tomlin and you also called the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl, which that didn't happen. That same episode, I told you Kyler Murray was going to be a Jet, and I feel extremely compelled that that's going to be the case. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to you're going to have to roll with Justin Fields. I think you're going to let Tyrod Taylor walk, and you got all these quarterbacks on the contract. You still have to pay for Rodgers, still going to have to pay for Fields. I think you're going to bring in Kyler Murray. I think the Jets will make the trade for Kyler Murray. They have the capital to do it. I don't think it's going to cost that much. And I think Kyler Murray is going to be a Jet. Now, is that the best option for the Jets this offseason?
No, the best option is Daniel Jones, I think. The ideal situation, if you are the Jets, because you're an NFL franchise, unfortunately, we have NFL franchise GMs that don't do this way, and or the owners are Bengals or whatever. But you're supposed to think, okay, if I get Daniel Jones in for this season, number one, my team's a whole lot better. Number two, worst case scenario, regresses back to where he was. I don't think that'll happen. I think his floor is much elevated than where it was in the Giants. But he regresses a little bit. He's not the same guy that went 8-1 with the Colts, but he's a guy that you ride out the season. Next year, 2027 draft class, we've already talked about it. There's 7 guys in that quarterback that I would have in the same tier as Mendoza and Ty Simpson. That's not an over-exaggeration. That quarterback class is going to be insane. And you draft any of those dudes, right? And you have Daniel Jones start either the first 6 games, first 8 games, the whole season, and you let that guy sit. That is the way that these quarterbacks should be developed. CJ Carr, Julian Sayin, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, Lenore Sellers, any of those dudes sitting in behind Daniel Jones for that offseason. You load up on some dudes this in your first 2 round picks. You get some more guys around them. 2028 season Jets would be a completely different football team than anything we've ever seen with the Jets if that's what they do. I don't think you can do that with Kyler. I think that's a different situation with Kyler. I think you ask Kyler to do different things. Kyler is not a guy because his play style is so different. Like Kyler is not going to be a mentor to Julian Sayin, who's a pocket passing quarterback, or Arch Manning, who is a really live arm, or CJ Carr, or any of these like guys. Kyler's hyper mobile, and he's not a great passing quarterback. I mean, he's not a great pocket passing quarterback. And so it's a completely different offense you'd have to run. He would not be a good mentor. I think their best option is Daniel Jones, but I do think that they're going to end up with Kyler Murray.
So on the flip side, obviously we both think that the Jets are going to get Kyler. What does this mean for the Cardinals?
Oh, I don't know. They're sitting there at 3. It's I don't think it's too early for Ty Simpson, but I don't think they'll take Ty Simpson at 3. So I don't think they're drafting a quarterback in the first round. And outside of those first 2 starters, there's no one that's going to be able to come in and give you good reps week 1. I'm not sure they're actually going to be that big of a player for Malik Willis. And I guess that leaves you with Tua. Moving down to the next, a couple teams down. Like, I don't know if Tua's. I mean, I know Tua. I don't think Tua is going to be on the team next year. He hasn't officially been cut yet. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't. I think that leaves him with into the Tua or Kirk Cousins race for sure.
Is Quinn Ewers definitely the quarterback in Miami then?
No, I think Malik Willis is the quarterback in Miami.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I
Tell me
think
why.
Malik Willis, I think Malik Willis in that offense with that athleticism um, is. I mean, maybe I'm thinking too much of the the McCarthy, you know, or that offense that they ran in Miami for the last however many years. But
Yep.
I just I don't know. I feel like he'd fit really well in that offense. He matches very well Jalen Waddle's play style and Achane's play style. He's a good distributor of the football. He was in Green Bay last year, just like the current GM and the current head coach of the Miami Dolphins right now. So they know this player very well. I could totally see him saying, I want to go play. Like, I like you guys. Y'all are who I know. Like, I want to go play for y'all. If he goes and plays well, the Miami Dolphins will sign him to a bigger contract. Some of these other teams, like the Jets, like, okay, are you really going to be a long-term guy for the Jets if you go sign there in free agency? Probably not. Like, are like any of these other spots, I don't know. But like, I feel like the Miami Dolphins are open to someone that could be there for the long term.
I'll name you 4 teams here, and you tell me if you think that they will add a quarterback this year. We'll start with the Atlanta Falcons.
Um, mm, I think so because I don't think Kirk Cousins will be on the roster. Um, and has he been cut yet? I feel like
I
I've
I don't
heard.
know.
I don't know. He hasn't been cut. He will be cut, I think. And I think they're gonna have to do something else, whether it's a Carson Wentz or whether it's just someone else to get in that room that's cheaper than that plays the same role as Kirk Cousins, but is cheaper.
The Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, you have to. That's another Daniel Jones spot that we talked about earlier that I talked about a couple weeks ago. Like, don't be shocked if he ends up back in that offense that, was the reason he revitalized his career. sitting there for literally half a season, but behind Sam Darnold and that offense. So do. I think they're gonna have to get someone in there to compete with JJ, to push him and to be a backup plan if things hit the fan.
Going back to the Colts here, do they add a quarterback if they lose Daniel Jones?
No, I think they would go with Richardson again next year
Wow.
if they don't. If you have Daniel Jones is the best quarterback on the market. You just franchise tag him or you extend him if you have any
Yep.
plans. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're looking for another quarterback, you already have the best one in house and a guy that's played football for you, played really good football for you. Like I think they're just riding it out with Richardson.
Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, they'll add a backup, but Bryce Young's the guy for sure. He's played really well, and I mean, he hasn't played really well, but he's been progressing nicely, and he's definitely starting to get his feet underneath of him.
And then we talked about earlier, the Steelers, are they going to keep their guys?
I think so. I think this quarterback room will look the exact same next year. At the start, don't be shocked if Will Howard does end up taking the reins at some point next year, though, or just beating Rodgers out for the job.
Could be interesting. We'll flip to the Browns here, and this is a really intriguing room because Deshaun Watson should be ready for the season. Does that throw a wrench in the plans in Cleveland?
No, I just think you have like a quarterback competition, which is pretty cool. But it's a terrible one. It's what we expected. It's what we expected the Colts to look like last year. You know, you called out my Chiefs one, so I'm gonna call out your Daniel Jones one. Like, like we talked about how bad of a quarterback competition that was. Shador Sanders versus Deshaun Watson in the Big 2-6 is a terrible quarterback competition. That's really ugly.
I mean, can Deshaun win it? Or like
Yeah,
they can't get rid of him. I mean,
Shador didn't play that good, man. He didn't play that good.
he was a Pro
Like,
Bowler.
heck yeah, he was. Heck yeah, he
I
was.
mean,
Stefanski had two Pro Bowl quarterbacks last year, man. And they
it's an
fired him.
unbelievable league. It's an unbelievable league. It'll be, yeah, I don't think they can get rid of Deshaun Watson. But I personally think he's going to be the starter next year. I don't know why. It would be a very Browns-esque thing to just make him the starter. Just makes sense.
No, they'll start Gabriel for sure. They'll run that.
That's what they did at the start of the season. I know we talked about Richardson. I'll go back to him really quickly. If he is not an Indianapolis Colt and they decide to trade him, is there a spot that you're looking at and you're like, oh yeah, Sam Darnold gonna revive your career here?
I would love to. My pipe dream, like, like if I could press one button and make something happen, I would send him to the Rams for a fourth round pick and let him sit in
Oh,
behind
oh
Stafford.
my goodness.
Why would that not work? Can you imagine all that arm talent? Like, that would be bonkers if they made that happen. Bonkers. But I don't think they will. But that's my pipe dream. If that could happen, that would be insane.
Well, speaking of the Rams, are the Rams going to add anybody in the draft? Obviously, they've been linked to Ty Simpson at 13. Seen that a lot because they have technically two first round picks because of the James Pierce Jr. trade. Is that something that you think that they will address this offseason?
I do. If it's not Simpson, it's a guy like Beck. It's a guy like Sawyer Robertson. It's a guy down the board that you could see. We haven't done our full quarterback evaluations, but there's some guys that to run that McVay offense, you have to be pretty accurate, and you have to be smart. Can't think of anyone better than Ty Simpson, man. It'd work out well.
You love your Ty Simpson. We'll talk about the last team on here that, yep, if you're looking at the screen, you can probably see it looks controversial. It's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals, our favorite ownership group in the NFL. And we just have to talk about Joe Burrow. We have to talk about, the injury history and just the attitude towards the end. What is the future for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati?
I don't know, man. It shows what being part of that Cincinnati Bengals organization will do to a man. You know, how much he loved football, how much he is on fire coming in. And like, I've very rarely, like, seeing press conferences like that is just glaring. Like, it was pretty crazy how, you know, void of life he looked. just being out there all the time. And so I think it would very clearly have to be something he initiates with them. And there would be a lot of pushback from the Bengals, and he would have to overcome that. It would have to be a putting my foot in the ground, like I literally will not play for you anymore if it even came to that. And they still would probably try and work it out with him. You don't personally like if barring health concerns, I think he's the second best quarterback in the league. I'm really high on Burrow. I like him a lot. I think he's mentally fantastic. His arm talent's incredible. He's one of the best prospects we've ever seen coming out of college. And like I just think he's so good. I think he's the second best quarterback in the league. I would love to see him go. Yeah, bro, can you imagine him like in the Vikings with Jettas? Or can you imagine him the Rams when Stafford retires, like somewhere that's like actually competent to take care of him. And Jets have 5 first round picks. That could work. I think the Bengals would accept 5 first round picks for that, and then infusing that talent in the Jets would be pretty great.
It has to be a team that has some sort of really bad quarterback contract. And the first one I think of is Brock Purdy. And I think that that would actually be a pretty fair trade if you throw on picks with it. If you throw on
Interesting.
2 first round picks and throw Purdy and then just basically swap
Whoa,
contracts between them.
whoa,
Uh, yeah, that could
man.
stir up our off season for
Yeah,
real. I definitely would be very interested to see that. Obviously, Tua, maybe another suitor. He's definitely not as good though.
yeah,
Similar contract though, so that could make it work. But like I said, you have to have the compensation, and really the only team that I see with that compensation, there's two of them, and you named one of them. It's the Rams and the Jets this year.
yeah.
So, I mean, that would be super interesting. And I think that'll be it for us today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was a fun one. I really like this
I
hybrid
like this
episode.
one.
You'll see a lot more of these as obviously the draft cycle goes on, and we kind of have some dead time to talk about NFL offseason. That's what we'd love to do because we are not only a draft channel, we talk about the NFL all year round. We thank you guys so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next episode later this week.